All right. And 3, 2, 1. Good evening and welcome. Tonight's meeting is being conducted virtually by Zoom webinar and is being live streamed on the City of Milton's Facebook page. Please note the only active videos and microphones will be that of our panelists, which includes the mayor, council members, and city staff. All attendee videos will be disabled and will remain disabled for the duration of the meeting. All microphones will be muted except for the mayor's call for public comment. At that time only, and when notified, the moderator will unmute your microphones to allow you to speak. Attendees joining the meeting who wish to make a public comment may do so by using the raise hand feature. For Zoom app users by computer, tablet, and smartphone, the raise hand feature is located at the bottom of your screen. You simply click raise hand. Callers using telephones can access the raise hand feature by using the phone keypad. To raise hand, press *9. To unmute, press *6. Please do not use the raise your hand feature until the mayor calls for and announces the appropriate time for public comment. The Q&A function found at the bottom of your screen can be used for procedural questions regarding the Zoom app only. Chat with panelists and other questions are prohibited for tonight's meeting. The meeting will now begin. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Thank you, Stacy. I'd like to call the virtual regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, May 4th, 2020 to order. The city strongly recommends that you review tonight's agenda carefully, and if you wish to speak or comment on any item on the agenda, then you may do so by public comment. There'll be 2 opportunities for public comment during tonight's agenda. One which will be general public comment, and also the second opportunity will be during new business on the actual new business items. The moderator will provide public comment instructions at that time. While the Milton rules allow a speaker to request to make a comment up until the clerk calls the agenda item, once the agenda item is called, there will be no more comment or no more comment requests will be accepted. Will the city clerk please call roll for tonight's meeting?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the May 4th, 2020 regular meeting. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Peyton Jamison.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Laura Bentley.
Councilmember Bentley, you're muted. Yeah.
Sorry.
Councilmember Carol Cookerly.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Longoria.
Here.
And for the record, Councilmember Rick Morick is absent. And now we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I want to thank everyone for being here, even though it's virtual, as well as the public. I did an experiment there when Sudi called roll. I raised my hand when I said yes to see who else would follow, and I think, Laura, you were the only one that didn't. If Sudi, if you'll please sound the next item. The agenda.
Our next item is approval of the meeting agenda. Agenda item number 20126.
Okay, do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the agenda, item number 20-126.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Longoria. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, the next item is public comment, general public comment. Public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and city council and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during tonight's meeting. As a reminder, there will be 2 opportunities for public comment. The first of which is general public comment. If you wish to make a general public comment, then use the raise hand feature located on the bottom of your screen now. If you're using a telephone, press *9 to raise your hand. As a reminder, when your name is called, please unmute your microphone and state your name and address for your comment. You'll have 5 minutes for remarks. Is there any general public comment this evening, Stacy?
No, sir, there is not.
Okay. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Sudi, if you'll please read the items.
First item is approval of the March 20th, 2020 regular city council meeting minutes, agenda item number 2127. Next is approval of a contract between the city of Milton and AT&T for network integration services, agenda item number 2128. Our third and final consent agenda item is approval of a janitorial services agreement between the city of Milton and American Facility Services, Inc., agenda item number 2129.
Okay. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Longoria with a second from Councilmember Bentley. All in favor, please say aye and raise your right hand. Aye.
Aye.
And you know what, let me go back and do that separate. So I, myself, Councilmember Longoria,
Aye.
Councilmember Cookerly,
Aye.
Councilmember Jameson,
Aye.
Councilmember Moore,
Aye.
and Councilmember Bentley.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. That's unanimous, Sudi. Okay, we'll move on to reports and presentations. If Sudi, you'll please sound the next item.
This item is presentation of the City of Milton FY 2019 Annual Audit. Ms. Bernadette Harville.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, state law and local code require Milton to have an annual independent audit to review the financial activity of the city. The city issues a request for proposal to obtain the services of an audit firm. Our current firm is Milton & Jenkins, LLC. Their team conducted on-site fieldwork at the end of January and worked with our team throughout February and March to complete and publish the city's annual CAFR for fiscal year 2019. This evening, we have Mr. Adam Fraley, the engagement lead partner from Milton & Jenkins, to present the auditor's discussion and analysis for FY 2019.
Thank you, Bernadette. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor, members of council, for having me here this evening to present the annual audit. As Bernadette mentioned, you should have two documents in your package. One is the City of Milton Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and the other is the Auditor's Discussion and Analysis. The Auditor's Discussion and Analysis is a summary of the audit results and some of our other required communications that I'm pretty much going to stick to as I go through the presentation. I'll refer to the page number at the bottom of each page so that you can follow along, because I'm just going to hit the highlights of them, of this document. Although if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask me as I go through. If you would start with page 2 of the document. This is information about Milton & Jenkins. We are a full service CPA firm with a large niche in the governmental sector. You can see there that we provide over 100,000 hours annually, and it makes up about 30% of our firm. And then you can also see the different breakdown of the different types of governments, totaling up to about 450 governments we serve annually. Again, I am Adam Fraley. I was the engagement lead partner on the engagement. And we also had Tim Lyons, who served as a quality assurance partner, and Will Durzis was our engagement supervisor. Turning to page 3 of the document, these are other industries that we serve and other services that we provide. And then on page 4, the financial statements are the responsibility of the city, and the city's finance department is required to get an audit each year in accordance with state law and submit the audited financial statements to the state of Georgia within 6 months of the year end of September 30th. Our job as auditors are to audit those financial statements and give an opinion as to whether the financial statements are considered fairly in all material respects. We did issue an opinion, we oftentimes call clean opinion, and technically it's an unmodified audit report. And what that means is that we, based on our test work, believe that the financial statements with you this evening present fairly the financial position and results of operations as of and for the year ended September 30th, 2019. Turning to page 5 of the AD&A, the city not only prepares financial statements rather that we audit, they prepare a comprehensive annual financial report, oftentimes called a CAFR, that includes these additional sections of an introductory section and a statistical section to conform to the requirements of the Government Finance Officers Association. And on page 6, the next page, you can see mention of the GFOA and the certificate that the city has received each year for excellence in financial reporting, and plans to also submit that CAFR this year for the same award. Turning to page 7, these are just some of the financial highlights for the year. The city ended its year with total assets of about $155 million, offset by liabilities of about $40 million, resulting in a net position or an equity difference between the two of about $115 million. As with any city, the majority of that equity is made up of an investment in capital assets, net of any related debt, of about $81 million. And then another portion that is restricted by outside parties, about $17 million, leaving roughly $17 million as unrestricted net position. That's the amount that would be available for future spending for the city. Then rolling to page 8 at the top, the change in that net position during the year ended September 3rd, 2019 was a positive addition in net position of about $16 million. You'll see in that paragraph. Following down that page is a graph showing general fund revenues, the general fund being obviously the main operating fund of the city. And you can see the breakdown of the revenues of the general fund in the pie chart there. Property taxes making up the largest portion, followed by sales taxes for 2019. And then on page 9 is another chart which shows the general fund expenditures broken down also in a pie chart there, the majority of which obviously in public safety expenditures of $11.3 million for the year. A couple more graphs on page 10. You can see a history of general fund revenues versus expenditures, and you can see that over the last 6 years, including 2019. And then the ultimate net change in the fund balance of general fund at the bottom of the page there, and how that has, the results of that over the last 6 years as well. The general fund ended with a $238,000 addition to fund balance for 2019. On the next couple pages, page 11 and page 12, these are a Cliff Notes version to the footnotes of the financial statements. And you can refer back to this as you're looking at the CAFR of the city and to see what each of those notes are telling the readers. And then moving on, if you'll turn with me to page 13, this section starts our required communications that I don't intend to go into detail on every one of these topics, but these are elements that we're required under our standards to communicate to the governing body. If you'll turn on page 14, it asks us specifically to discuss any significant difficulties encountered in the audit or any disagreements with management. And as it says here, and I'm happy to report, we did not have any difficulties during the audit or disagreements with management. Finance and everyone outside of finance that we encountered through the audit process were completely forthcoming with information in a timely fashion to allow us to complete the audit and then present these results to you tonight, and also be able to issue our audit reports to allow the city to comply with the state law and having that turned into the State Department of Audits by March 31st. On the next page 15, we did have a few audit adjustments. You'll see in the middle of the page. Those audit adjustments are attached to the back of this AD&A document, so you can see a detail of those. Each of the adjustments were discussed with management and were also posted to the general ledger of the city and to the financial statements and included in the CAFR to ensure they're fairly presented. We also did have one I'm sorry, I thought someone might have had a question. So at the bottom of that page, it talks about uncorrected misstatements. We did have one uncorrected misstatement that we discussed with management and was deemed immaterial and was not posted to the CAFR. And you'll see the nature of that at the bottom, page 15. Turning to page 16, I'm happy to report we did not have any findings that the standards require us to report for the city's audit this year. So it really, the page 16 here goes right into just other items that we often call management points. And they're really just recommendations for improvement that are kind of a byproduct of doing our audit that don't raise to the level of any kind of finding having to be reported. The first item is IT cybersecurity. This is an area that is certainly an emerging threat in all industry, especially in local governments, and is a recommendation here just to make sure the city incorporates a regular review and monitoring component, including a outside monitoring component of its IT framework as part of an effective internal control to mitigate against this risk. The second item was immaterial, but just a management recommendation that we did discuss with management to include any FICA type accruals related to compensated absences in that liability being reported at year end. And then the remaining of this document in the end of my presentation refers to new accounting standards that are coming out. And really the main goal here is to keep council and the city's management abreast of new standards as they're coming about and to be able to timely and properly implement those new standards. I will say the hot topic related to new standards right now is the GASB, who is the standard setting body for local governments, will actually be later on this month adopting a new standard that delays the implementation of all of these standards that are cited here that would be reported in the next year to delay those 1 year due to the coronavirus. So getting a little leeway on those new standards. But those start on page 17 and go through the remaining portions of the document. At this time, I'd ask for any questions. That is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Adam. Do we have any questions from council on Adam's report?
So,
any comments?
yeah, Adam,
Yes.
the comment that you
thank you
included
very
on,
much, Bernadette and the rest of our staff.
I'm sorry?
Good, Joe?
yeah. So the comment that you included on page 16, I believe it was, related to the cybersecurity audit or checkup, maybe is a better word for it. You're putting that in as a recommendation based on just standard practices, or was there a deficiency that you were trying to point out here?
Well, the one thing that I would point out there that I think the city should do, and I wouldn't necessarily frame it as a deficiency. Again, this is an emerging threat that all governments are dealing with right now. And I'll say, we have seen several governments just in Georgia that have been affected by cybersecurity attacks that, ransom, that sort of thing. What I would recommend for the city is to kind of do a gap analysis of its IT framework and have that analyzed and determined compared to maybe best practices, and have someone from an outside party. So similar to how the city's finance department actually prepares the financial statements, but then has auditors actually come in and do test work and opine on those financial statements, just like we've done. Where I think this will be headed going forward is that the city or local governments in general may be required to have an outside party come in and do that monitoring and actually give some kind of reporting on the cybersecurity risk framework for local governments. And so we're kind of really recommending kind of a gap analysis and also a monitoring component from an outside party.
Thank you.
And any other questions? All right, thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to our first presentation. Sudi, if you'll please sound that item.
This item is consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 34, Section 24 of the Milton City Code, creating parks and recreation fees and other charges. Agenda item number 20130.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the first presentation?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda item 20-130, first presentation is read.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Councilmember Longoria. All in favor, please. Oh, well, I'm going to do it individually. Aye. Councilmember Longoria.
Aye.
Councilmember Cookerly.
Aye.
Councilmember Jameson.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Councilmember Bentley.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Sudi. That is unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to new business. This is also the second opportunity for public comment. If you wish to comment on any new business item, please note there are two. Then please use the raise hand feature before the item is read. Sudi, if you'll please sound the first item.
This item is consideration of a grant application, the U.S. Fire Administration's staffing for adequate fire and emergency response, SAFER grant program. Agenda item number 20131, Mr. Matt Marietta.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The SAFER grant, or the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response program, is made available by the U.S. Fire Administration to help fire departments meet national standards of staffing, especially as it relates to response times and the number of firefighters the department is able to put on a scene if we have a full alarm. The SAFER grant is provided through the Federal Emergency Management Agency. We actually applied for our first SAFER grant in 2007, 2008, and used it to get some of our initial staffing to stand up our ladder truck when the fire department first formed. At that point, we were awarded 3 firefighters. The opportunity has come up again, and based on the timelines, this grant application process would coincide perfectly with the opening of the new fire station and the rebuilding of Fire Station 42 on the Thompson Road location. The grant now, if awarded by FEMA, would cover 75% of the staffing costs for new firefighters for the first 2 years and 35% for the third year. And then the fourth year and beyond would be up to the city of Milton to fund. So what we would do in order to stand up an additional pumper and better serve the Highway 9 area in that new fire station, we would ask FEMA for 9 firefighters. That would be 3 for each shift. And we have 3 shifts in the fire department. So we would have another full-time apparatus responding to EMS calls and fires and able to support our various other equipment throughout the rest of the city by doing that. The FEMA grant only pays for the the entry-level firefighter positions. So as the program, if we're awarded the grant, as the program develops, we as a city would find ways to fund any promotional requirements that come out of that if we had to have a supervisor on that apparatus. So that would come from the maintenance and operating budget. But if awarded over the life of the grant, the total grant amount would be for $1,092,636. And then the city over that time would also have a $696.58 grant match based on the 75, 75, and 35% share. And that would provide us support for staffing that piece of equipment for the first 3 years of its existence. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you all have about that.
Let me ask first, Stacy, do we have any public comment on this?
No, sir, no public comment.
Okay, I'll close the hearing and then I'll open up for questions on for Matt. Joe?
Yeah, Matt, I'm trying to follow exactly what the commitment from the city is. Normally, we don't look to fund human resources by a grant program because the grants eventually run out. And unless the city's taken the proper steps to manage the budget, they may not be able to sustain the resource commitment. Is that what we're talking about here? Or are we talking about the equipment that goes along with the resources?
No,
Mayor, I'd like to answer that one if I could on behalf of Deputy Chief there.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
So this grant has come along. It's somewhat serendipitous as we were going to have to staff the new Station 44 once it comes online. If my math was right, that would be just for the entry level $1.7 million in staffing. We're fortunate that this grant has come along and it's going to offset our costs for the first 3 years. Had this grant not come along, we would have just been incurring 100% of those costs.
So serendipitous is the right adjective.
I think so.
Okay, do you have any other questions on that? Anybody else? Comments? Okay. I'll open up for a motion on this item.
Mayor, I move that we approve a grant application, agenda item number 20-131.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Longoria with a second from Councilmember Bentley. I'll vote aye. Councilmember Longoria.
Aye.
Councilmember Cookerly.
Aye.
Councilmember Jameson.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
And Councilmember Bentley.
Aye.
Okay, Sudi, that is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Sudi, let's move on. If you'll please call the last new business item.
Our final item this evening is consideration and presentation of an architectural services agreement between the City of Milton and Jericho Design Group, LLC, for design services at the former Milton Country Club Clubhouse Building. Agenda item number 20132, Mr. Parag Agrawal.
So today we are here to present you the proposed agreement between the City of Milton and the architectural firm Jericho Design Group for architectural design services for the renovation of the clubhouse building in the former Milton Country Club property. Today, I also have with me virtually our principal planner, Michelle McIntosh Ross, and also our city architect, Bob Buscemi. As you know, Michelle served as the project manager of the former Milton Country Club master plan, and Bob Buscemi will serve as the project manager of this renovation project. So before Before I start talking about the building layouts, let me first start with the project schedule of this renovation, because we have received some questions on the project schedule. So as you can see, there are basically 4 parts or 4 phases of this project. The phase 1, part 1 is the interior demolition and mold removal. That will take approximately 6 to 8 weeks to complete. So the City Council approved the contract for this part a couple of weeks back in the end of April. And I'm very proud to say that the work has already started on this part, and it will take around 6 to 8 weeks. The second part is the architecture design services. That will take around 4 to 6 months to complete. And today we are in front of the City Council to approve the contract for this architectural design services, which is based on the approved master plan, concept plan A, that's called the base plan, and the approved master plan. The third is the exterior demolition and the yard cleanup. The bids are currently on the street, and they are due sometime in mid-May. I think it's May 14th. And we will again be bringing the contract to the City Council in the month of June or July. And the fourth is the most interesting, which is the construction work, which is supposed to start in fall of this year and will take approximately 4 to 6 months to complete. And by spring of next year, we will be having a new clubhouse building for the City of Milton residents to enjoy. As you can see, all the 3 top parts of the project are going on at the same time. And the reason why we are taking this phased approach is that so that we can start the work as soon as possible. As you know, as part of the master planning process, we received a lot of feedback from the community about the proposed uses of this clubhouse building. And now I will ask Michelle to give us an overview of the discussions we heard as part of the master planning process. Michelle?
Yes, thank you, Parag. This is Michelle McIntosh, Principal Planner with the City of Milton. As you may recall, the in-depth master planning process we conducted in 2018 through 2019 that concluded in August of last year with an adopted master plan called Plan the Park. An integral part of this process was the citizen feedback, as Parag mentioned. We heard from adjacent neighbors and property owners. We heard from members of the swim and tennis program, potential trail users, and from the wider Milton residents. All the feedback we got resulted in the recommendation to keep and renovate the clubhouse building for an adaptive reuse. After we established that the community's desire was to keep and renovate the building, we looked further into the needs and wants of the use of the space within the building. We also got input from our own Parks and Rec Department staff, along with the swim, tennis, and the future trail users. Our city architect, as Parag mentioned, Bob Buscemi, worked with these various stakeholders to sketch what would best accommodate the needs of the users in an economical way. There were 3 main directives: the bathrooms. It was important that the bathrooms could be used by all of the users independently, regardless of whether the building was open for any programming or not. The tennis residents should be able to use the restroom as well as the swim participants and any other folks attending the programs. Also, we wanted to provide a flexible space for the Parks and Rec programming. That is, any art classes or dance or yoga that may be programmed in the building. We wanted to maximize the programming potential of the Parks and Rec component. And then third, we wanted to reserve the restaurant space for a possible third-party vendor to renovate and operate some sort of eatery. We heard from residents that they wanted to maintain that option. So you will see that the proposed scope of work in the renovation contract, we are sticking to these recommendations, which came directly from the community. Also, in the plan is a prioritization schedule for improvements. There is a concept A, as you see on the slide. Concept A, the base plan, which is what we will start with, as you see here, with 2 follow-up expansion phases, which we would get to as the budget permits. And so I will turn it back over to Parag to continue with the details of the building layout.
Thank you, Michelle. So these are not the proposed options. So the 2 site plans which you have in front of us are on the left-hand side, you have the existing layout of the building. And on the right-hand side, you have the proposed layout of the building. So as you can see, there are basically 3 program areas, which we basically got from the community, from the feedback which we received from the community. The 3 program areas are basically the bathrooms, the program areas, which includes art space and the multi-use room, and the food area, which includes the kitchen and the dining spaces. And as Michelle mentioned, the best part of this layout is that each program area could be used independently and have an independent access to the bathrooms. Swim teams and the tennis teams can also use the restroom facilities. Because of this layout, we have been able to minimize the interior demolition also. Only the walls which are shown in red will be demolished. Basically the walls of the kitchen and the dining areas, and this wall, this red wall of this multi-use room will be demolished. And the basic, again, it was the other way around. The walls of the kitchen and the dining will stay the way they are, and the walls of only the restroom and the arts room will be demolished. Sorry for this, Mayor. David, could we go to the next slide? Now, talking about the building design, as you know, the passive part of this park was bought by the Green Space bond funding, and we want to make sure that this building becomes a showcase building of sustainability for Milton residents to enjoy. We will also be using the biophilic design features that basically means bringing the natural landscape and natural light inside the building. The building have a natural look. That this building will also act as a transition between the passive parts of the park like trails and the active parts including swim and tennis programs, and will be used by Milton residents who are accessing the passive park and are also coming to this facility for tennis and the swimming pool. David, do you want to go to the next slide? So that's pretty much it for our presentation. Bob, do you want to add something? And Bob will be able to answer any questions about this renovation project.
No, any questions, I'm here.
Yes.
I'll open up for council. Any questions on this? Laura?
Thank you. Just want to make sure. So it looks like by spring of 2021, the bathrooms, those are the bathrooms that were now in, portable restrooms. Those will be permanent and available for use. Is that right?
Council member, the goal is by spring of 2021, the entire building will be ready for use. And our focus, our priority are the bathrooms. And when the construction will start, we will be first focusing on the restrooms. And we are very hopeful that the restroom facilities will be made available much before in spring of 2021.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I think Paul.
Thanks, Joe. Parag, in the planning of the space, I think you mentioned that the kitchen area and the eating area are not a part of the upfront timeline. And then if that's a correct recollection of what you said, is the eating area that's being reserved for a common space, could that be used for additional activities until such time that it is operated as a kitchen or eating facility?
Activities until such time that it is
So
not
I will
treated as
basically say
kitchen
the
or eating.
walls of the multi-use room and the arts room will be collapsible. So you can basically make the arts room and the multi-use room to be into one. Bob, do you want to talk about whether the dining room could also be part of the bigger hall or not?
Yes, this is Bob Buscemi, city architect. If the kitchen area was not completed and we don't have a vendor, we could just close off that area and still utilize the dining space for programming.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Bob. That's what I was looking for.
Okay. Anybody else? Joe, or was that?
And I have one last, I just wanted to make sure I understood. So what's currently going on is the mold remediation, and that requires some demoing.
Remember what's going on is the interior demolition. And if we can go back to the site plans which we showed, David. So again, this is the site layout, and the walls which are basically shown in yellow, which is the bathroom walls, the restroom walls, they are getting demolished along with the mold removal.
Gotcha.
So the mold removal and the interior demolition is going on.
So I'll jump in quick. This is Bob Buscemi again. So the mold removal is for the entire structure. So they'll be doing mold remediation within the entire building. The demolition will be the walls that we know we want to remove in order to get the bathrooms in. But the mold remediation work is for the entire, including the basement area. They'll be doing complete mold remediation work throughout the whole building.
Thank you.
I think I'm having internet
I can hear you.
problems. Did you say something, Councilmember Bentley?
No, thank you. I can hear you too. I'm done. Thank you.
I think we might be ready for a discussion or a vote.
Yeah, it looks like Joe is freezing.
Yeah. All right. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any more questions?
No.
Or discussion, and I'll open up for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 20-132.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Council Member Cookerly. Any discussion?
Mayor, may I say something? We didn't have any comment. I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there.
Okay, my bad. Then I'll close the public hearing on that. And I at this point, I have a motion and a second. So with no public comment. So if there's no other discussion, I'll ask for a vote. Councilmember Longoria,
Aye.
Councilmember Jameson,
Aye.
Councilmember Moore,
Aye.
Councilmember Bentley,
Yes?
and Councilmember Cookerly.
Aye.
And I'll also vote in favor. So that is unanimous, Stacy. Okay. Got a couple things I would like to talk about. Is there anything else that council would like to bring up or discuss? Councilmember Bentley?
Sorry, no, I was muting myself.
Okay. One thing we've been discussing, I've had some discussion individually with some council members as well as staff on reopening some of our active park spaces. Obviously, our passive areas are open for the public, and there's could be a good balance. Obviously, our citizens need a safe place to get outside and recreate. That being said, we want to make sure that we take every safety precaution that there is, so that the benefits, far outweigh the negatives. Steve, I don't know if you want to also add anything on that, as far as we've been talking to other cities and looking at numbers and discussing it. But Steve, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Sure, Mayor. We're prepared to go when the council decides that the time is right. Before, we were looking at this almost from a reverse engineering standpoint. We shut it down in a very specific manner. We could reopen it in the reverse manner. We were sanitizing all of the playground equipment every day. We were doing the same thing with the bathrooms. And people were generally keeping a safe distance from one another. We were very fortunate that we have a constituency that understands the importance of it. We could do that in reverse. And I think we could be successful. It's just a matter of when you feel the right time is. I know that Forsyth County opened up over the weekend, and I know that there's discussions going on amongst the other North Fulton cities. I guess it all just depends on what each city and when the time is right.
Okay, so we'll be prepared for some more discussion on that. So if anybody has any input on that, please feel free to rest of the council's been here, and I know I'm starting to hear from some folks that would like to have some more available space. Okay, Peyton.
So, Mayor, are you asking us, or are you asking us to make a decision kind of now on opening up this weekend?
I'm not necessarily not right this second. Just wanted to have kind of put it out there.
Well,
obviously it's not an agenda. It's not an agenda item, but just wanted to discuss that.
Okay. Well, I would be in favor of it. I've been hearing a lot of people wanting to have it opened, and us communicating it appropriately and effectively, I think, would be a good idea.
Okay, Paul.
I have a question for Steve. Steve, in the surrounding communities, in the fact that they may have opened up their active parks, are they allowing organized sports to take place, or are they just offering the active areas for appropriate use with social distancing, but not necessarily active sports?
Active versus organized would be a difficult question to answer. I know that they haven't reinstituted the organized sports, but I'm relatively sure that if we open up our lacrosse fields, people will be playing lacrosse, and we won't have the resources to be able to stop them from doing so, even if we wanted to. We'd have to rely on some personal responsibility and voluntary compliance for people to be able to make their best decisions about how close they need to get to people. So active, yes, people could be playing. I could see them getting on the baseball fields and lacrosse fields, just not organized with our teams and things along those lines.
And Steve,
I would clarify that too, though. But basically, active or passive, that would be obviously there's the opportunity for citizens to have a pickup game of some sort, but it would not be an active in the sense that it would be a sponsored or an organized game. Carol?
The comments I've heard, and there haven't been that many, maybe 4 or 5, people are wanting to be able to have their own discretion about whether they participate at the parks, et cetera, and make decisions for their families. This comes from some parents. And I think that they should be empowered to use their own common sense and make decisions as adults. And I don't think we should stand in the way of that. So I would be in favor of opening.
Okay. Paul?
Thanks, Joe. Just another clarification from Steve. Steve, when you talked about the enforcement of that, I would assume we would still be subject to the governor's authority, which is only in the hands of, I think it's a state police and or public health administration. So we would, if our police are seeing something inappropriate, again, we would not have the authority to enforce it. But to continue my thought, I support Councilmember Cookerly's position that I would like to see us open up sooner rather than later, counting on our Milton citizens as being responsible.
I believe that the authority has morphed a bit with each iteration that has come out, and our officers have been doing a good job of advising when they need to, and they will continue to do so should they encounter individuals not practicing safe distancing.
Okay. Councilmember Bentley?
Thank you. My comment would be, I'd be interested to know also what our neighbors are doing. Because if we are on the forefront of this, or they're lagging, you know, we might become a very popular place. I don't know if that's just something that we need to think about. If there's any coordination between the other, you know, with Roswell and Alpharetta. I think we had been in touch with other city managers just to understand what their approach is going to be as well. Just a thought.
Understood.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. The other thing I wanted to just, throw out there, Steve and I have discussed, the ultimate opening of City Hall back up, which I know would be phases. Obviously at some point we'll have meetings in person, as well as eventually open up City Hall to not only staff, but then ultimately the citizens. So Steve, I don't know if you have any, again, we haven't even discussed anything in general on that, or it's specific, but don't know if you have any general thoughts.
Well, I have been communicating, as Councilmember Bentley alluded to, with the other city managers. I know that there is a strong desire from our fellow city councils to get back into the chambers to start deliberating business. That's still up in the air for everybody. I mean, I can hope one thing, but I don't know what the reality will bring. But there is some talk about possibly getting back into the chambers, at least for council meetings, as early as this month. Time is on our side, considering we now have a little time before the next meeting. I would recommend we see how the numbers continue, see what kind of numbers we're seeing in Fulton County and the surrounding counties and the city of Milton, make a decision.
Okay, and I'll agree. We'll all communicate as we move forward and as things progress. Anybody have any comments on that or anything else from council? Joe?
So we don't need to get into this part of the discussion at this meeting, but we are going to need some guidance from our city attorney, because some people are going to have extenuating circumstances that would limit their ability to go back and get into the regular schedule as it was. So if we got some people showing up at City Hall for a meeting and some people thinking that that's not a good thing for them to do, we're going to have to get some idea of what we can do about having part of our meeting done with either teleconferencing or Zoom, while the other part is still in chambers. It's going to be a hybrid solution that we're going to have to drive to, and that may be problematic.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And again, Ken and Steve, you guys will have to be assessing that and advising us. I guess, Ken, it's not as simple as going back and seeing what you guys did last time, say 5-10 years ago when we had this virus.
Yeah, that's right. There's not a whole lot of precedent for this, council. What I'll say is what I'm seeing some jurisdictions do is, to sort of to Council Member Longoria's point, if it's an issue, then, and we're afraid of marginalizing some individuals that might be immunocompromised or whatever, being able to fully participate in their government, then if there is a issue, then let's just keep the teleconference to cyber meetings until we feel like everybody can comfortably participate in person. To Councilmember Longoria's point, the hybrid is where there really isn't any law for that. So you sort of have to pick your poison. Is it one or is it the other? Is it in person or is it cyber? And so what I've seen some governments do is just say, we'd like to go ahead and get to these physical meetings and have everybody, be able to assemble. But because we're still concerned and because there are still people, people of reasonable conscience that just do not feel comfortable coming, we're going to go ahead and continue the cyber meetings through May. And in fact, so what I have some governments doing is saying our hard open right now for in-person meetings is June. That may not be where Milton is. That we, and I'll have to confer with the city manager and the mayor on that, but that's what I'm seeing some governments do.
We do have a draft plan that staff's been working on, and we've modeled it after the plan that our rules and regulations that we already have for those people that can't come in. I think it's going to be several months before some of those that are immunocompromised are going to feel comfortable enough to be able to come out into public and sit with people and involve themselves. But Ken, maybe you and I can talk online and see if we can compare some notes on this.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else from council? And we've got a couple of department updates. We can start with Public Works.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Got a couple updates I want to give you, but first and foremost, just want to let you know that Public Works really hasn't missed a beat since the beginning of the shelter-in-place order. But like other departments, we had to adjust to working remotely. We saw a minor drop in our work orders, but it's been since picked back up to normal. We've put out a project for bid to do pavement reconstruction and resurfacing. The bids have come in. We're now evaluating those bids, and you should see an award at the next City Council meeting. As you probably also know, we did a sinkhole repair on Harmony Court in Avonsong subdivision. Staff has installed the new zinc battery backups at the 5 signalized intersections. If you recall, that was a new initiative in the budget. Also for the month of April, the city engineer completed a rather extensive audit for the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District. They evaluated both our stormwater, water, and sewer abilities in the city of Milton. Hopefully you've had a chance to see the new T-Splosh signs. We've got a couple of them up, and of course they'll be going up as projects come in. I think they look very good, and thank you. Shout out to community outreach and my staff. For the month of May, you should see the demolition of the home at Thompson and Hopewell in preparation for the eventual construction of the roundabout. You also should see the vegetation control contractor in the trails on Birmingham Park. You'll also see contractor doing some road striping out in about the city of Milton. And you've probably seen sidewalk extension on Mayfield Road, and that will link Crabapple to the city of Alpharetta. For right-of-way permits for the month of April, we issued 14 right-of-way permits, and 3 of those were residential driveways. And we had 125 work orders for the month of April, which is about average. Summary breakdown, 36 of those were sign issues, 21 of those were potholes, 16 stormwater issues, 10 debris, trash removals, and 3 dead animals. So I know you'll like to hear those. But that's what the month of April looked like, and we'll see a lot of progress in the month of May. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Robert?
I have a question. Yep. Thank you, Robert. I just have, do we have a time frame on the easements at the Milton Country Club and also the trails? I know with everyone being out during this, pandemic, we're seeing a lot of traffic on some of our gravel roads and just trying to figure out, I know it's not going to be within this time frame, but just I've had a lot of questions about, you know, what's going on with the Milton Country Club.
That's a good question. And City Manager and I have been briefly talking about it, doing a presentation at the next City Council meeting to show you the proposed trail plan and give you a better schedule update at that meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Robert. And
Mayor, did you want Chief Edgar to talk now?
okay, do we, I'm sorry, yeah, I must be having internet problems because, yeah, I said Chief Edgar, moving on to fire. It's Chief Edgar. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Mayor, I can hear you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Let's go ahead. Come on, Chief Edgar.
Thank you. As you can imagine, much of our efforts have been focused on COVID-19, keeping our firefighters safe and serving the community, and even doing drive-by birthday celebrations, as well as planning for high school graduations. Each week, we check in with our community paramedicine participants and see if there's anything that we can do for them. And if, David, if you go to the next slide here, I just want to give you a snapshot of where we are today and actually where we were. It's kind of like a before and after picture here. Captain Murray on the right there, that would be our typical response PPE to a medical call, safety glasses and gloves. And today you can see firefighter Dalton here with a full PPE, Tyvek suit, N95 mask, full goggles and gloves. And we only use that type of PPE when we're going to a possible COVID-19 type patient. But right now we're wearing N95 masks on all our calls just to protect our firefighters. So it's kind of a before and after and where we are today. And I guess kind of our new norm here right now. David, you go to the next one. The community has supported us tremendously. And here's just a list of the things that they've been dropping off to us to help us fight this pandemic and keep our firefighters safe. So as you can see, quite a bit of support here from the community. And I'd just like to point out the hand sanitizer you see there is 25 gallons is the new, I guess you would say the distilleries out there and kind of like a moonshine thing that's been actually with a percentage of alcohol is serving as some hand sanitizer for us. David, you go to the next slide. And here's just a snapshot of our training room kind of turned into our COVID-19 storage. This is where we are actually putting out and pushing out the supplies to our staff, and we're doing the inventory and collecting these and just watching our burn rate as we go on each day. So, and David, next slide. And here's an example of this is from our fireworks software. This is the PPE usage. What we have been using since January. And gloves has always been, something that we would wear on all our calls. But you can see the N95 mask, the eye protection, surgical mask, and gowns. That's not something that we typically would wear unless we had something specific that we were responding to that we knew about. So you can see kind of how things have changed for us. And David, next slide. And this is our call volume since January. You can see again, our call volume has actually dropped. So with the COVID-19 and the shelter in place order, you can see that our call volume has gone down a bit. So which I guess it kind of serves as the community is listening and doing their part to help us. So we do appreciate that. David, next one. And here, this is the Alpharetta test site that opened up, the COVID-19 test site at 4700 North Point Parkway. They opened up here just last week. Our first day out there was last Thursday, and each department in North Fulton, each fire department in North Fulton is taking a day of the week to send staff over there to assist in a safety position, a safety officer position, as well as a deputy incident commander to assist that. And David, you can go to the next slide. And here's just a snapshot of the, we're working with the National Guard and GEMA and AFSEMA with this, but here's just another snapshot of the cars coming in. And David, the next one. And again, National Guard there, and how this site is set up. And one more, David. Next one. Yeah. Oh, that was it. So one thing I'd like to do is I'd like to thank the Milton community for all their support, and with all the mask donations and the food and the PPE that they've been supporting us with. It's really been a really outpouring of support from the community, and we truly do appreciate that. And I'd also like to thank the Milton First Responders Foundation for all their support, helping feeding our firefighters with the assistance of our local restaurants and all. So they've been a tremendous support for us as well. So that's about it on the COVID-19 portion. The other thing I just wanted to mention that we're continuing to work with Bob Buscemi on the public safety complex. We're doing our part to make sure that we're keeping that project moving forward with furniture orders and kind of answering any questions that they have as things come up. We're getting really close out there. I was out there today, and they're really starting to move. The site's really starting to take form there, and they're doing grading and concrete work. So we're pretty happy about that. And finally, the short list of architects. We put out an RFP for architectural design for Station 42. And surprisingly, we received 14 responses to that RFP. So we've narrowed that down to 2 finalists right now. And in the next 2 weeks, we will be doing interviews and hopefully select an architectural firm to design Station 42. And Mayor, that's all I have right now. If you have any questions from you or the council.
All right, thank you, Chief. I want to thank our, obviously our all your guys for being out there, keeping us safe. That's interesting. The slides on the number of calls. So it is a good indication that our citizens are following best practices. It's amazing to watch them, how they have gone down during this stay at home, stay in place order. Okay, is anybody else? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, sir, I still hear you.
Okay. Again, Chief, I can hear you. Can anyone else hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay. All right, I can't see anybody on here, but if there's nothing else, that will conclude our meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Longoria, second from Councilmember Moore. All in favor, please say aye. I'll go individually.
Aye.
Council Moore. Okay. I got Councilmember Longoria, Councilmember Moore. Did I see Councilmember Moore?
Yes. Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Jameson,
Aye.
Councilmember Cookerly, Councilmember Cookerly.
Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Bentley.
Aye.
Okay. And also myself, aye. Yeah, and Sudi, that's unanimous. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.